And you're live.
Good morning, Summa scholars. Today is Tuesday, March 4th, the 8th week of Ordinary Time, and it is Mardi Gras! Yeah, baby. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
Happy Mardi Gras, dude.
Indeed.
You're listening right now. I'm holding up to the microphone.
There we go.
You're listening to my favorite Mardi Gras song, the Olympia Dijon Brass Band from NOLA, baby.
To translate, I think he said that's his favorite Mardi Gras song.
It is. It's the Olympia Dijon Brass Band.
There you go.
This is a Mardi Gras mask that they have hanging up in the toilet here at this place.
That's right. I remember the mask.
Now you remember. Did you think
Yep.
about it before?
No, not at all.
So, dude, I've already been out on the front porch, dancing, having a pipe, getting my New Orleans up and ready. Have you ever been to New Orleans, Joe?
No.
Oh, man. So I've been there at the Mardi Gras. I think I was there.
All right. Before we get into big, long stories, you're barely comprehensible. So.
Should I probably take the mask off?
Probably, yeah.
Oh, Joe, that's so sad now. I want to do the whole class.
No
All
way.
right, everybody.
No way we can.
Welcome to the Daily Summa. Can you hear me a little bit better, Joe?
Yes.
So, I'm from Houston, and that's just down the street from NOLA. I think I told you the story once of being in Houston with Pops, and this girl called me up. She was living in the French Quarter, and she was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Why don't you come visit me?" And I said, "Well, I'm hanging with my dad." She goes, "Bring him." And so, I says, "Dad, you want to go to New Orleans?" "When? What are you talking about?" He's sitting there watching TV. I said, "Right now." This girl I know has a place in the actual French Quarter, not cheap real estate, by the way. And anyway, a few hours later, we end up in New Orleans. But it was not Mardi Gras time, but it was there with Joff. Joff is usually down there in Mardi Gras time. I don't think Joff is there now because he's on tour with Chaparral, and they're about to play Red Rock Theater. Do you know Red Rock, Joe?
No.
Can you still hear the music?
A little bit, only in the bad way.
Oh, I love it in the bad way. Speaking of the bad way, man, my last trip to New Orleans Mardi Gras. It went the bad way. We were there. I have some pictures of that too. I should have sent them over to you of us going down the street at Mardi Gras. Myself, Joff, and anyway, how can I explain this? It was Mardi Gras. The streets are packed, and I, at this time in my life, am post repentance, so I may have had a drink or two. I can't remember, but I know I wasn't doing other things. You know what I'm saying? But other people perhaps were partaking in different types of mind-altering equipment. And certainly the people in the street were. And this girl is leading us around. We're staying at her place. And she knows a bunch of people. So, we're in the streets. It's packed. Some people at bands are going by everywhere. And people are going down different side streets and moving in and out of the quarter. In and out of Bourbon Street and this and that. And we end up on a back street, and this girl goes, "Hey, let's go check out this friend of mine or something. I know this place." And we're in a packed street, and there's a gate. It's like a door that's on the wall of all these New Orleans buildings that are somewhat like the buildings down on 4th Street, but very New Orleans-y, if you know that aesthetic, that kind of French, old New Orleans aesthetic. And there's a gate there, or a door. I don't even know how it happened. Suddenly she just opens it, and we leave this street full of people, and now we're suddenly in this whole new environment, in this courtyard of a couple apartments that's off the main street. So we hear the din of the crowd fade behind us as the gate shuts, and now we're in this place with a bunch of other people who are in this private kind of apartment party. But and she's like, let's go, and she's pushing us through people, and my hat's being knocked and jarred around, and we finally make it through a crowd, and she takes us inside the apartment, and like all the doors are open. People are just have their apartments open, and suddenly we're walking around in some dude's apartment that we don't know, and people are just kind of circling, making a circuit. People are handing you drinks and celebrating up the staircase. You're walking past people in the staircase, walking into people's apartments you don't know, that are sitting around laughing, drinking, talking. Food is out on people's tables, and then we talked to some people, we hung out, had some chats, and then next thing you know, we're like back down the stairway, and I'm trying to keep this girl in my eyes, in my sight, because I don't want to get lost. And I wouldn't know where to go, but of course it wouldn't really matter. The whole city is having a Mardi Gras celebration because everybody's getting ready for the next day when they're all going to fast very deeply and sincerely.
Right.
Go to
Of
mass
course.
and get their ashes and everything. It's very beautiful. But anyway, we ended up back out on the street, and we go to this one section. This is one of the weirdest spiritual experiences I've ever had in my life. Let me catch myself a little cafe. Cafe de Monde, by the way, in Nolens is amazing with the powdered pastries. I can't remember what they're called right now because I'm in this other story. But we end up in this square down in the French Quarter, and there's no cars, obviously. I mean, the streets are just full of people. It's a sea of people in this 4-street crossway, and of course you have trans guys and every manner of crazy outfit you can think of, and the wildness, humanity off the chain. And then this cart pushes into the middle of the place, and the guy's got a bullhorn, and it's a cart with like a cross on it, and they're like evangelical, and they start shouting out, "You're all going to hell!" And I have never seen. They're like, "Repent, God hates fags," or whatever. I don't remember what all they're saying. They're saying stuff like that. So it's like religious anger. It's like the religious demonic mixed with the party debauchery demonic. It was like these two warring factions of demons, and everyone starts screaming. The whole street turns on these people, and they're screaming, of course, their angry God stuff. And this feeling I had, it was like the gates of hell had just opened. I've had this kind of experience a couple times where it's like demonic presence, and like from the heavens, like from above. And I started getting sick. Like immediately I got vomity sick. And the whole street is screaming at these people, and they're screaming back. And I just, it would be hard to describe the change, the sudden change where everybody's like partying stuff. Everybody's having a good time. And then some guy yells out, "You're all going to hell. God hates it. Repent." And then the whole street just turns on these people. And it was gross is the proper word for it. It was grotesque. And it was at that point, because I started feeling sick and then anxious, like a panic attack thing going on, that I broke off from Joff and our friend, and I just was like, I got to get out of here. And that's when we separated. I don't know if I ever even told Joff this story, but I had to fight my way through crowds of people and navigate myself out of the French Quarter, praying the whole time, and hoping I didn't vomit. And yeah, it was the strangest, like sudden change of spiritual place that you're in. And then finally I made my way out of the quarter, and I went back down the street that our friend lived on, and I found this like tree where there was kind of not a lot of people. I mean, they were still out in the streets on the side. It was the thoroughfare. It was along 2 streets with the big uh, grass in the middle with trees, and I sat down by this tree and just started praying, God help me. And I finally like rallied back, and then I went back to her house and just hung out and had a good time on the patio watching Mardi Gras people go by, because those houses in New Orleans are usually up off the street. You have to like take a little stair to get up to the porch. So I'm up above watching people go by, had a good time, had a fine time. And of course, they come back later on, having been all kinds of places and done all kinds of things with all kinds of accoutrement. But yeah, that was one of my Mardi Gras New Orleans tales. Did you get my picture of the Pope, friend?
I did.
Yeah, can you put that up?
Yeah, let me
I'm
just
going
get
to
rid of
show
the
the people.
snowman.
This is like Mardi Gras is such in my spirituality, my particular spirituality that I embrace. The court jester, the Diogenes, baptized, of course. And this is a good like image of the kind of Mardi Gras spirit. This is at the Vatican, and this is a yearly festival that they have where circus performers and traveling performers go to the Vatican. This has been happening since the 70s. A lot of people don't know about it, but the Vatican and the church honors those who are traveling performers, those who go sacrifice their comfortable life in a stable home and spend their life traveling so as to bring whimsy, hilarity, and good cheer to humanity. And that, of course, would also include traveling musicians like myself. So this is a big part of my spirituality, and I just love Mardi Gras. That kind of boost getting me ready for the long slog of 40 days of fasting through the desert coming up tomorrow, Joe. Tomorrow. Are you ready? Are you ready for Lent?
As ready as I'm gonna be, I think.
I know. I know. Here, I'll
It
show you
didn't
something.
completely catch me off guard this year, which it did the last 2 years. And so I'm being better than I had in the past, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it was like literally Mardi Gras. I'm like, oh, crap. That's happening tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm much more ready to go this time.
Yeah, I read an article that came up yesterday from Mother Cecilia from Christ the Bridegroom Monastery, Mother Natalia's monastery. Mother Cecilia is the hegemona. She's the abbess, leader, whatever. She has a message for the Great Fast from hegemona Mother Cecilia, and she uh, opens up and says, "Guys, just to let you know," she said, "I had a little breakdown thinking of the Great Fast coming, and on the other side of the breakdown, I realized I was trying too hard." Trying too hard to be virtuous, to be a good leader, to pray well. That's why it was so hard for me. The Lord wasn't asking me to try hard. And she goes, I'm not sure what the Great Fast is going to look like for me as I try not to try hard in a time of year when it seems a time for trying harder. But what I do know is that am deeply moved by this line from the Ambon prayer, the Cheese Fair Sundays, the beginning of the fast. This is the prayer. In this short time, you have arranged to heal the great wounds of our soul. It is God's work. He has planned out our healing. Yes, I need to cooperate, but all too often my efforts are a result of thinking that it's all up to me. And so she's talking about how she was not quite prepared for the fast either, that she hasn't been wanting to. I typically dread the start of the Great Fast. This ascetical season is so incredibly difficult, beyond my strength. The fasting, the longer services, the spiritual combat. Last week, I was already struggling so much with all my responsibilities, and I couldn't imagine how I could possibly add to the struggle by taking on the discipline of the Great Fast. So it seems to be going around. People are not prepared for this fast, which makes me think that God's doing something. He's going to show his strength and that it is not up to us. So we'll see how this.
To be fair, though, I feel like if the spirit was everyone's very prepared for the fast, you would probably also say it makes me think that God's doing something.
That is true. That is true.
Because
It would
probably
be, and that would
both is
still be
right.
true.
Yeah, both's right.
It would be a different kind of something. Very
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
Joe. Yep. See, that's how the skeptics think without going to the next level of it. Just
Mhm,
when you realize that there's two ways, just like we talked about yesterday, there's two kinds of snakes. There's the snake in the garden, but then there's the messianic snake, the good snake, or the be as cunning as a serpent.
mhm.
The person who, that's how the devil gets you. He's like, well, there's two snakes. That's a contradiction. There can't be two snakes. Ha ha. I'm going to stop being a Christian and go out and be goofy on Mardi Gras out of my brain. Um, these are the little tricks that the devil plays. As Scripture says, we're aware of his tricks. We're aware of his devices. Uh, I wrote a Mardi Gras song a few years ago. Um, it's after the Katrina catastrophe. Do you remember that? Are you familiar with that, Joe? The thing, the Katrina, the
The
hurricane
hurricane? Right,
that
and
hit
then
New Orleans.
all the other stuff that happens after, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible, man. Bodies
Mhm,
floating in the street. It was horrible. And we brought, when I say we, I mean Houston. Houston opened its gates, city gates, and said, "Hey guys, come on over." So a bunch of New
mhm.
Orleans people came over to Houston and lived there for a while. Some of them still live there. Some of them went back. I think the Olympian Dijon Brass Band actually came over and kind of got a place to stay for a while until New Orleans recovered. But I wrote a little song about that, and I'm going to play it for you now, and then we'll get on to Summa. I realized that there's a guitar. Oh, for those who don't know me, and maybe who are just tuning in, they're like, "Why is this guy about to play us a song?" Most of the people watching right now, I found out, Joe. I think most of them might be Houstonians.
Really?
I think I
Wow.
found out my buddy Jack Tomas is watching, the Cuban Jew. What's up, Jack?
Oh, that's
The
right.
Cuban
You
Jew
told me
is
about
watching. We know Germ's watching. We got so I think Melissa's watching. People who would go out and see my
well, I don't
shows.
know if Jeremy is watching because we haven't been able to be on Facebook in a while.
Ah,
That's where he was watching. So
I
I don't know
see.
about that, but yeah.
Oh, that's right. We haven't been able to be on Facebook. That's a bummer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, guys, if you don't know, I've been a musician most of my life. So I'm going to play a little bit of the song, which is really designed to be a brass band song. I mean, there's some lyrics and stuff, but it's really supposed to be a long brass band jam, like a New Orleans side thing. Uh, and I know you can't hear it super well, but I'll just give you a taste of it. You ready to hear my New Orleans Katrina song, Joe?
Yeah, but
You, hmm but
bring
what?
us back to reality just for 1 second.
Reality? What's that? I don't know what you mean.
We are at 18 minutes. Throwing that out there. Just keep that in mind.
Oh
But
yeah, we're
keep
not.
rolling,
It's not.
brother.
Yeah, it's just a. I'll show you the beginning of the song because, like I said, it's a big long brass band jam, and
Right.
as you might notice, there's no brass band here in this room. So this is just kind of the intro, and it's supposed to be a combination of Texas country mixed with New Orleans jazz. That's the kind of joke of the song. Well, our neighbors in New Orleans had a hard luck flooding their street. We invited them to our town till they got back on their feet. And they left us some music at Thanksgiving for the retreat. And it went bop, 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 da 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 da. Bop, bop, ba da, bop, bop, ba da da da. Well, bop, bop, ba da, bop, bop, da 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 da. And then you would just jam for 10 minutes with the whole big brass band. If any of my old brass guys are watching, I wish you were here to take up the ooh, if we could pack a brass band into this tiny room and
That'd be something.
just play for a while.
Yeah, that'd be something.
We had those guys play on it's all on Spotify if you want to check out. Craig Kinsey, Montrose Boulevard Blues is the song, and those brass guys, I wanted them to play like a wild sort of street New Orleans type band brass sound in that song, Montrose Boulevard Blues. But the problem is they were too good. They were too good.
Wait,
It was
really?
too clean.
Mm.
So I went out and bought a bunch of alcohol. I went out and bought like 3 bottles of bourbon and just sat there and fed them bourbon. And then we recorded the song again. It's like still too clean. Gave them a few more shots, waited, and then finally we got the sound we needed. You have to have a little help sometimes to get things dirty. You know what I mean, Joe?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you do know. I don't know.
I guess. I mean, I don't have a specific scenario like that in mind, but it makes sense to me.
Well, sometimes you got to throw a little dirt on something. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes things just get a little too straight
Right.
around the corners. You know, it's a little boring. I think is the word. You got to have spice. You got to spice it up a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday. I wish that you all were here, or I wish we had that teleportation thing going, so we could just bop down to New Orleans for a few minutes and then bop back and be ready for our Lenten journey. But that's not here. We don't have the teleportation skills yet. But we are, Joe, going to teleport back in time to page 69. Right?
Yep. That's what we're doing.
Teleporting back to the page that by divine providence we beautifully missed. And now for New Orleans, for Mardi Gras, we're going to go back in time and pick up Article 2, whether God is everywhere. That's the question, Joe.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you know it, but we could just cut to the chase of this thing and say, yes, he is everywhere, and then get out of here. You know?
I mean, yeah, we could do that.
We could, but I think what we're doing in the Daily Summa is daily we're reading the whole page.
I mean, well, at least one time we could get away with it, right?
Okay, today's the day. Later, folks.
No, we should bank it. We should bank it. We should bank it.
Okay, so man, let's get into some Mardi Gras Thomas. We should have Thomas. We should have a mask on Thomas. We should have a nice Purim Fest mask for Thomas, but we don't. So, here, we'll just put this up here for now. You hear the little bells?
Yep, we got the bells.
I hear the bells. All right, folks, let's go at the top of page 69. We're just going to take it up right in the middle and at the end of Ralph's objection and going into Shimon's objection. We don't get to hear from Reuben and Billy Bob. I'll give you a couple guesses what they're doing on Mardi Gras. What do you think Reuben and Billy Bob are doing on Mardi Gras, Joe?
We know.
Yeah,
because this is in the past, right? So this is like literally they smoked the reefer, and then the next question they come on in. You know,
they did. This is what they were doing.
Exactly.
They were already in Mardi Gras. Wow, this beaver galleon is wild stuff, bro. This beaver galleon, there's time warps. They were in Mardi Gras before we got to Mardi Gras.
It's true.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. And God is everywhere. So this is all fitting in so perfectly. The themes are just like we planned it. Just like we planned it, Joe. Brilliant producers. I hope you guys who are watching this appreciate the work that's gone on to get this to you. And then that you join Locals. By the way, Steve, I tried to upload something to Locals yesterday, and I realized on the app, I don't see how to do it. We're going to have to talk about that, Joe.
Okay.
So I can upload content to the Locals people.
That's important.
I'm getting there, Steve. We're getting there. We're learning the ropes on this beaver galleon. All right, top of page 69, question 8, article 2. Therefore, God is not in many places, and thus he is not everywhere. That's the objection, guys. That was coming from Ralph. Let's hear the objection that we're not even going to worry about from number 3 is Shimon. Further, what is holy in any one place is not in part elsewhere. But if God is in any one place, he is all there, for he has no parts. No part of him then is elsewhere, and therefore God is not everywhere. Ooh, you hear what Shimon did? Essentially, guys, a lot of this stuff is using material language to apply to God. And then Thomas comes back and says, no, God's not material. That's kind of the crux of it. But remember, we're meditating on the presence of God. We're not trying to find an intellectual data point. If that were true, then we could have just got a quick synopsis at the very beginning. God's spirit, matter is matter, kind of explain how that is, and the book would be a lot shorter. But we're taking up the same themes over and over so as to meditate on the presence of God in our lives. On the contrary, it is written, I fill heaven and earth. Jeremiah 23. That word fill is F-I-L-L. It's not a dude Phil talking like Punxsutawney Phil from Groundhog Day, which is another movie about time warps. See, everything is connected. I-P-H-I-L, comma, heaven and earth. That's not what's being said here. I fill heaven and earth. Okay, let's go to the respondio. I answer that. Since place is a thing, to be in place can be understood in a twofold sense. Now, guys, prepare yourself. Thomas is going to do a bunch of philosophy speak here. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it, just like I got through that Mardi Gras party. And we'll get back out to a nice tree where we can sit under and just relax. Here we go. Either by way of other things, i.e., as one thing is said to be in another thing no matter how, and thus the accidents of a place are in place, or by a way proper to place, and thus things placed are in a place. Now, in both these senses, in some way, God is in every place, and this is to be everywhere. Okay? Some things are a place, and some things are in a place. This house is a place. This cup is in that place, and it's also placed in this place. There's different ways, modes of placement. That's all you need to worry about. First, as he is in all things, giving them being, power, and operation, so he is in every place as giving its existence and locative power. Again, things placed are in place, inasmuch as they fill place, and God fills every place, not indeed like a body. Again, we could have just said that at the beginning and made this Summa Theologica a lot shorter. But that's not what we're doing here. Again, things placed are in a place as much as they fill a place, and God fills every place, not indeed like a body. Before a body is said to fill place in as much as it excludes the co-presence of another body. Whereas by God being in a place, others are not thereby excluded from it. Indeed, by the very fact that he gives being to the things that fill every place, he himself fills every place. Now, remember, we said that one of the terms in Hebrew for God is the place. He is the place. And then we're going to have to meditate on, we're going to get to meditate on the mind, what is called the mind-body problem. How does the spirit realm interact with the physical realm? And that's what we get to meditate on. That's what we think a lot about. Nobody has figured it out yet. None of the natural sciences can quite understand how the connection makes. And we don't, but we can stand in wonder at the whole wonder of the fact that I can be in the spirit realm right now, which I am, and so are you, and so is everything that has spiritual consciousness, nefesh, a soul, a living soul. And I can say, hand, move, pick up coffee cup, and it happens. It's like toggling on a video game. You sit there and you toggle, and the thing on the screen turns left and right. You're not making that thing on the screen move. you're toggling, you're making the toggle move, but there's a whole series of events that are taking place that you don't control to make that thing move on the screen. Your hero in whatever Boulder's Gate or whatever game you're playing. I've never played that game. I've just heard it, Joe. Joe, you're like, look how cute Craig is trying to do nerd talk.
But you said it weird. You said Boulder's Gate, which is...
See, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about because I'm not a nerd.
Yeah,
But
it's true.
I do
I
love
am.
nerds. I love nerd culture. I love to like hang out, and I love Dungeons and Dragons, which is about as nerdy as it can get.
Yeah, dude, I think you're a nerd. I think you're just in denial.
Well,
It doesn't
you'll
mean you're
get
not
to know
also cool.
you'll get to know me better. There was a dispute that broke out among my girlfriend and some of the burlesque girls at the time. My girlfriend was a nerd LARPer. She went out and did LARPing. She was like heavy nerd. And I tried to say I was a nerd because I play D&D or whatever, and I read books. But she got pissed off. She was like, "You are not a nerd." It was like I'm trying to encroach in nerd world. And then I went and asked the burlesque girls because they were nerds. A lot of these burlesque girls are nerds, and they are doing like other stuff. Like they were doing like Lord of the Rings burlesque and things like that. Anyway, I asked them, I was like, I'm like a nerd, right? They start laughing. No, Craig, I'm sorry. You don't get to be part of the cool nerd crew. I didn't grow up around any of that stuff. My dad was a drug dealer. I grew up around people who didn't do that stuff, but I learned to love the things of nerd culture. So I don't know about video games, but I do know how they work, kind of. You toggle a thing and the thing moves. Well, inside of you, you've been given an intellect and a soul by God, and you toggle things. You make a sort of a decision that your hand should move and drink from the coffee cup, but a whole series of movements are taking place beyond your conscious control. And of course, an obvious thing is your heart, your lungs, and all the manifold things that are happening in your body to keep you alive are happening way beyond your conscious control. You have zero control over those things. But the unmovable mover is moving them for you in his great love to keep you in this game, to keep you in this state of consciousness so that you might live and learn to love and to come into the true union with him, which Thomas will talk about in part 3 of the Summa Theology. Now, let's use our metaphors before we even get into the reply to the objections. Use our metaphors about being in a place. So I played that song this morning. I was in that song in 2 ways. One, I was moving those strings as an efficient cause. When I move the strings, I am the efficient cause. These strings cannot move themselves. I have to move them. But they are performing according to the mode of their nature. This string has a low, it's larger. Its nature then is to resonate at a lower pitch. This one is thinner, and its nature is to resonate at a higher pitch, but they're both E. This note is E, and this note is E. Same note, but different. And they're being moved by me, the efficient cause. The formal cause of this music is these strings moving. I mean, the material cause are these strings. The formal cause is the way in which I'm moving them. And I'm in that in as much as I, the efficient cause, am moving it. And that song is going to sound the way that Craig Kinsey plays. If Joffrey were to play it, it would sound different because he has a different style. He has a more graceful touch and he's more exact. I am purposefully more messy and loud. And I want it to give that crazy wild feeling. But now let's say, and I'm also in that song in a different way. in a way that Joffrey can never be. And that is, I wrote the song. It's my song. I wrote it with an intention, a final cause in mind. The final cause was to convey over a party atmosphere and to honor our friends in New Orleans that went through this horrible thing in Katrina, and to show the unity of New Orleans and Texas and Houston, and also to mix up musical styles. I wanted to mix up country swing, like Western Texas country, with New Orleans brass band. That was my intention. So I had a final cause in mind. I am the efficient cause moving the song, and the formal cause is the song and how it plays and how it moves, its form that it took. And the material cause is the strings. If I played a Bob Dylan song, I would be in that song because I'm moving it and it's my voice and it's me playing. But Bob Dylan would also be in that song because it's his song. And he was the one with the final cause and the intention. So when I play a Bob Dylan song, this wondrous thing is happening. That's why music is one of the reasons music is so powerful. You're seeing a foreshadowing of the kingdom of heaven. You're seeing a foreshadowing of what we're all about to be involved in a very short period of time. Soon we'll all be dead. And what you're going to experience is when I'm playing a Bob Dylan song, there is this wondrous melding together of Bob Dylan and me. Bob Dylan is in me. I am in this Bob Dylan song, the effect of his writing, and I am projecting Bob Dylan as I would project it. You're seeing Bob Dylan through me. In the kingdom of heaven, in this Mardi Gras party, this Purim party we're all headed towards, you will begin to experience others coming through you through others. You're going to see Therese as you would see in the eyes of Craig, and Craig in the eyes of Therese, and Therese in the eyes of her father, and her father in the eyes of her, and Saint Joseph in the eyes of Therese, and Therese in the eyes of Saint Joseph, and all of us beholding the Blessed Mother, and then how the Blessed Mother beholds us in this whole symphony of entrance into interpenetrating life. And then you will see that all of this has been in the eternal mind of God as the efficient cause, being itself, that is moving this whole big parade in this whole party as a reflection of what he is mysteriously. Now, that, folks, is a good party. And remember what the essence of it is. The essence is the relationship, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, this eternal lover beloved relationship, the Father emptying himself into the Son receiving the fullness of the Father, and that love relationship being a third person, the Holy Spirit. And that experience is, in a small way, hinted at in the lover beloved relationship of a husband and wife, who the husband pours his essence into the wife opens herself up to receive his essence, and that love between them is a third person, a new child. So that's the kind of party we're headed towards. And that's why there must be a purification process through earth on this in this world. We're sent here to be purified so that you can receive that party properly. This lover and beloved is not going to share himself. It's too intimate of a relationship. It's a husband and wife relationship. He's not going to share it with creatures who are grasping lustfully at it. That's grotesque. And so this is what we're here for. This is the name of the game. This is why we are masked. We are masked. You can't see your friend's true self. Even married couples who've known each other for years cannot fully see and understand the depth of what they're right in front of, because we're all living in this temporary Purim party, this temporary Mardi Gras of maskedness, in which we're not fully exposed. We're covered, but there's going to be an exposing in complete eternal nakedness of spirit. rejoicing in the incorporeal life of the Blessed Trinity. And may we all be cleansed to a greater degree so that we can receive a greater degree of that light. Let's hear the replies to objection 1 from St. Thomas. Incorporeal things are in place not by contact of dimensive quantity as bodies are, but by contact of power. We're going to hear this same thing over and over. Bodies are different than spirit. The soul is in the body as my soul is in that song I just sang. I don't collapse and get inside the E string. I'm in that song. So also God is in all things. Reply to objection 2. The indivisible is twofold. One is the term of the continuous as a point in permanent things and as a moment in succession. And this kind of indivisible is in permanent things, for as much as it has a determinate site, cannot be in many parts or of place or in many places. Likewise, the indivisible of action or movement, for as much as it has a determinate order in movement or action, it cannot be in many parts at parts of time. Another kind of indivisible is outside of the whole genus of the continuous, and in this way, incorporeal substances like gods, angels, and souls, so forth, are called indivisible. Such a thing is indivisible. Such kind of indivisible does not belong to the continuous as a part of it, but as touching it by its power. Hence, according to its power, can extend itself to one or to many, to a small thing or to a great one. In this way, it is in one or many places and in a small or large place. All that saying, things in this world can be divided. Like we talked about before, you can divide this pencil up. That's how things in this world work. That's not how things in the spirit work, and it can be in many things at once. My one soul, my one substance playing my one song can be in a big thing, the E string, and a small thing, the E string, at the same time. I'm just as one movement, one soul, moving big and small things all at the same time. And so it is with the soul, and so it is with the things of God. He is in all these places, moving them. Reply to objection 3. A whole is so called with reference to its parts. Now, part is twofold, viz., a part of the essence, as the form and the matter are called parts of the composite, while genus and difference are called parts of species. There is also a part of quantity into which any quantity is divided. That's the math thing we talked about before. You can apply it in your mind. What therefore is whole in any place by totality of quantity cannot be outside of that place, because the quantity of anything placed is commensurate with the quantity of the place. Excuse me, Mr. Mask. And hence, there is no totality of quantity without totality of place. But totality of essence is not commensurate to the totality of place. Hence, it is not necessary for that which is whole by totality of essence in a thing not to be at all outside of it. This appears also in accidental forms, which have accidental quantity. As an example, whiteness is whole in each part of the surface if we speak of the totality of the essence, because according to the perfect idea of the species, it is found to exist in every part of the surface. White's all over this cup. But if its totality be considered according to quantity, which it has accidentally, then it is not whole in every part of the surface. On the other hand, incorporeal substances have no totality either of themselves or accidentally, except in reference to the perfect idea of their essence. Hence, as the soul is whole in every part of the body, so is God is whole in all things and in each one. We went through all of those things in the previous questions and articles, that we went into every kind of way you can look at material, measurement, mass, magnitude, multiplicity, or whatever it was called. And all those things are states of matter, but God moves through all of them as the efficient cause of all things. Remember also our metaphor of wood and the fire. The wood, that the fire enters into the wood, but the fire is certainly distinct from the wood. Even when you're looking at it and it's fully consumed, not consumed like into ash, but when it's fully penetrated into the wood, and you sit there and you see the movement of the fire inside the wood, which is one of the most magical things. I love that. I love to watch a fire when that happens. The fire is completely inside the wood, but it's still wood. That the wood didn't disappear. The fire is doing fire stuff. The fire going to fire. And the wood is still doing wood stuff. It's still sitting there, solid. not moving like wood does. The wood doesn't start moving around. They're both doing their nature, but they're doing it together in interpenetration. Well, not, yeah, the wood's in the fire and the fire's in the wood. Mystical. And God has made this thing work this way so that we can have a language. Remember at the beginning of our retreat, Joe, when I did all of those games and I had that thought experiment about the soul floating out in the deep abyss of space? Remember that?
Not really, to be
That
honest with
soul created in the deep abyss of space and it can see nothing.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
And then I said a star appears in front of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I said, and then a star appears behind it. And we were like, whoa. I remember John being like, wow, it would know a lot more about existence once that second star appeared.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the reason I was doing that and what I was getting to with all those games is the nature of semiotics and the relationship of signs to our soul, and how God has created this whole world of signs so that we can approach him and get to know what he's like slowly and better. And that's why he created wood and fire to be as it was, so that we can have this conversation right now. That's why he made guitars and music the way it is, so that we can have this conversation right now. And you can begin to ponder what he is like. Okay, Article 3 in the middle of page 70. Whether God is everywhere in essence, presence, or power. And we already addressed this when we skipped ahead, but let's just go ahead and hear what the objections were from Larry, Ralph, Shimon, and Reuven. Reuven showed up. Took a break from Billy Bob. Objection 1. It seems that the mode of God's existence in all things is not properly described by way of essence, presence, and power. For what is by essence, in anything is in it essentially. But God is not essentially in things, for he does not belong to the essence of anything. Therefore, it ought not to be said that God is in things by essence, presence, and power. My guess is we don't remember what the answer was, um, but it's good to like go back and meditate on it. Essentially, God's essence is existence itself, and that's what Thomas is going to try to explain to Larry. You have an essence, or you have a substance that you are, but your substance is not existence itself. It's an effect of God's loving work uh, to sustain you. So there's a difference between a human essence, a human substance, and the divine essence and the divine substance, which is act itself. It's the act of to be itself. Objection 2. Further, to be present in anything means not to be absent from it. Okay. Now, this is the meaning of God being in things by his essence, that he is not absent from anything. Therefore, the presence of God in all things by essence and presence means the same thing. Therefore, it is superfluous to say that God is present in things by his essence, presence, and power. That's getting into too much of pantheism, that God, if God's essence is in everything, then everything is him. And Thomas is going to say no. There's a separation by his preeminence and his exalted nature of being wholly other, that he is present, but he's present by the acts of his power, just like I'm present to the guitar, but he is not present in the pantheistic sense. Okay, so objection 3. Further, as God by his power is the principle of all things, so he is the same likewise by his knowledge and will. But it is not said that he is in things by knowledge and will. Therefore, neither is he present by his power. That's a little flip. God's um, knowledge and will isn't in everything. I guess like demons and people, we can have different wills and different amounts of knowledge. We don't have his full knowledge. Therefore, he's not everywhere. And Thomas is saying, again, there's a distinction between he himself, who is wholly other, and then the effects and the amount of light that he lets trickle through this stained glass window of our world. The amount of light that he's letting through is the amount of knowledge, wisdom, chachmuk, bina, das, that he's allowing to pour through. If he did not reserve the fullness of himself, then everything would not exist, because he would be, it would be complete light, which would also be complete, in our minds, chaos. For God, it is not chaos, because he knows all things from the beginning to the end and the end to the beginning, and what everything is of itself. How can it be that God retracts himself so as to make us? Good question. get cracking on that, folks. See if you can figure it out for Thomas and all of us. Objection 4. Further, as grace is a perfection added to the substance of a thing, so many other perfections are likewise added. Therefore, if God is said to be in certain persons in a special way by grace, it seems that according to every perfection, there ought to be a special mode of existence in things. And I think that's when he talks about part 3, where he talks about union, that he says God is in a special way. Yep. There is, however, another special mode of God's existence in man by union, which will be treated in its own place in part 3, where we find out how can God be united to us in union, which is the telos, and our goal in this whole thing. Remember, folks, our goal is to be the little dove, the humble, meek dove under the staircase, contemplating these things, and to be set fire by the straw that is this Summa and our scriptures and all the other things that we study and pray and meditate and rosaries and all those other things are to kindle within us the fire of divine love so that we may unify with it. On the contrary, a gloss on the Canticle of Canticles, Song of Solomon, Shir of Shirim, says that God by a common mode is in all things by his presence, power, and substance. Still, he is said to be present more familiarly in some by grace. More familiarly. It's a family thing, a familial thing. Once you come to conform your life to the family, that's why Mother Teresa and all the prophets and everybody said that the great battle at the end of time, which many people think we're in right now, is a battle against the family. You cannot have a familial knowledge with God unless you understand and embrace more and more what family is, and then come to enter into his family, the eternal life of the Trinity. You know, Joe, the other day, I had a little breakthrough on the family thing.
Oh, yeah?
A little breakthrough, dude. One was watching Christopher Robin that Maddie told me to watch, which, by the way, I'll probably never watch it again. The special effects are really good. The bear looked like a real living stuffed animal. Amazing special effects. I felt like they went to the 100-acre wood. I felt like the director had not walked through the woods a lot. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like he didn't convey the sense of what it's like to walk through the woods. There's a great opportunity there to put us in the woods. And also a lot of the, I always want to say lyrics when I'm talking, a lot of the script, it just didn't resonate with me. But I don't want to get into a movie criticism here. I'm just saying it was a good movie. Probably never watch it again. Unless some kid that I have in the future makes me watch it. But anyway, there was a scene though where there was some kind of family thing going on, and I think the little girl, he left her, and she wanted to play. She wanted like dad with her, and I had this little feeling of like, oh, I would be fun, you know. This dad's not hanging out with the little girl, but I'm like, this little girl, she's cool. I would be able to go have fun with her. I know how to play with the balloon. You know what I'm saying? I know how to be playful. I like had this feeling of like protectiveness. Like I want to go protect that little girl and play with her and make her not sad anymore. It's just like this little realization of what it might be like, you know? I've had these things before, like with Mike's daughter, Annie, who I love. And I love to hang out with Annie and make her laugh. I mean, I've had those things before. I'm just saying it was there more. And then the next thing was there was a quick video that one of my Instagram people, Catholic Instagram people, put up of, I guess, Macaulay Culkin's brother. I don't really know him, but apparently he just won an Oscar. And in winning the Oscar, he got up and he said this. Have you seen this yet,
No.
Joe? It's pretty amazing. The reason this Catholic person put it up, this Catholic Instagrammer put it up, is because of what McCulkin or whatever said. He said he's talking to his wife, who's in the audience, and of course all the stars are there. It's Oscar night, and he's got his Oscar in his hand. He's giving his acceptance speech, and he says, "Baby," to his wife, he says, "I know that I wanted to have more kids. And you said if I won some other award that you would give me a third kid, a third kid. He goes, but I know that you didn't think I would really win it. But I did win it, and so we have a third kid. But I haven't brought this up. He looks at her, and everyone, the TVs, cameras are on, and everyone's in there. There's like all the stars of Hollywood. And he goes, but a year and a half ago, I said, I want a fourth kid out in the parking lot. Do you remember at this certain place? And you, he points to another audience member, you were there, so you can be my babe. You said, I'll give you a fourth kid if you win an Oscar. And he goes, I haven't brought it up till now. And then she goes, I do remember. And she starts laughing. She goes, oh, ye of little faith. So now I have the Oscar. And what I'm saying to you, babe, is let's get cracking on that fourth kid. And seeing this dude so excited about wanting to have a fourth kid, like he wanted to get the Oscar so that he could have a fourth kid. That's the big thing he's excited about. He's up there with his Oscar, but he's talking about how much he wants this fourth kid, and he's already got 3 of them. So there must be something going on with this kid thing that's good. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was like it got through somehow to me. Let me just say this to all you Catholics out there and Christians and stuff. I can say this from years of experience of hanging around all y'all. You're not very good advertisers. You're not very good advertisers for wanting to have the kid thing. You usually talk to us about some doctrinal thing. You should have a kid because yada yada, and the Bible and blah blah, and St. Thomas says. I don't care. You're not going to get to me that way. You got to be like this Macaulay Culkin's brother, and I hate to call him Macaulay Culkin's brother. This is an Oscar-winning actor. I should know his name, but I just don't, and I'm sorry. But this great man, this great actor, gets up in front of the world, winning his Oscar, the thing that some people are going to Hollywood and destroying their lives chasing after. And he's like excited about that fourth kid. That's how you need to advertise it to us, guys. All right, with that, have a wonderful Mardi Gras, and let's enter into Lent. Let's go ahead and party today, but it's not a party. It's a celebration. It's cleansing your larder, cleansing your pantry of all the excess food, and really getting your mind into the fact that we're about to go into the desert tomorrow and joyfully entering to the desert with Jesus in his 40-day fast in the desert and unifying with that. I answer that God is said to be in a thing in 2 ways. In one way, after the manner of the efficient cause, and thus he is in all things created by him. In another way, he is in things as the object of operation, as its operator, like I did with the guitar. And this is proper to the operations of the soul, according as to which blah, blah, blah. We're at the end of the page. Happy Mardi Gras, everybody. Get out of here.